everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to the next episode of Inner Excursions. My name's
Mhm.
Heather Quick. I'm here with Stacy Katz. Hi,
Hi,
Stacy.
everybody. Hello. So great
So
to be here.
today, yeah, glad to be hanging with you, Stacy. So today, the episode's called Turning Inward, and we're gonna um, talk about what it means to turn inward, right? What this is all about inner excursions. An outer excursion is off having an adventure in the world, creating something in your life, right? In a material way. This is today we're going to talk about what it means to turn inward. And we're going to tell our stories and give a little context for how you can turn your attention to what's going on inside you instead of what's going on outside you in order to change the experience you're having in your life. So, yeah, hi Stacy.
Hello. So excited to dig in. And,
Yeah.
we're serving clients, and I know we've been there ourselves where, we're doing all the external things that we're going to get us the right job, the promotion, more money, a relationship, get into the right school. I
Yeah.
mean, we're all, everybody's out there hustling and really motivated to make a better life. And at some point on your journey, your tools aren't cutting it, and it feels so disempowering. You
Yeah.
didn't get the promotion,
Yeah.
even though you worked late hours and deserved it more than the person who got it,
Yeah.
right? There's just a point in time where there's a breakdown, right? You're
Yeah.
doing all the right things and, it's not happening. And it feels so disempowering when your power is in somebody else's hands.
Mm-hmm.
You need somebody to let you into the school, ask you out on a date. Husband's not doing whatever he's supposed to be doing, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so I know that you and I have studied this and been, really benefited from kind of taking our power back
Yeah.
and really living from a more internal place, an inner
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to sort of ask you, Heather, when did you sort of become more aware and make that switch? Were you born like that? Because I know that this is something that's available for every person on the planet.
Right.
People just don't know how to get there.
Right.
So I just wanted to ask,
Yeah, no, I'm so happy to share my experience and the first experience that I remember having um down this path of awareness, of self-awareness, of awareness that I am not my thoughts, that my thoughts are not the truth, that um there's another way to be with my thoughts, was actually I was like 13 years old and I went I don't remember, we were on vacation somewhere and we went into like a metaphysical store and I just remember there were singing bowls. That's all I remember about the store. There were singing bowls and I was like, Dad, this place is so cool. Can I get something? And he's like, sure, I don't know, pick something. And I picked this book up called Awareness by Osho. And I took it home and I remember where I was sitting on the floor in my room and I opened it up and I think I just read like the first page and it said something like, we're all walking around in a dream,
Hmm.
and that we can wake up from. And I like remember slamming the book shut and I was like, what are what are they talking about? But also it like hit something
Hmm.
that was so real about, and it was just about like the drama of life, waking up from the drama of life. And that was the first time I had that little seed planted. Freaked me out a little bit. Um, and But from there, I spent all my high school years, college years, reading like half personal development books, half like um, therapy, relationship stuff. But there's this one book called Ted. I could put in the notes. I can't remember the name of the author at the moment. Um, but it was about shifting from life is happening to you to taking ownership of
Hmm.
creating your life. It's called the empowerment dynamic. And that, I read that book recently. It was recommended to me by Clayton Olson, someone I was in a program with. And I picked up the book and started reading it. I hadn't remembered that I read it before, but then all of a sudden, you know how memories are funny. I was on the couch in my dad's house. Like I'm looking at the pages and I was on the couch in my dad's house and I was like, I have read this before.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Um, and I remember how much it moved me. And the most empowering thought was that I don't have to believe everything my thoughts say. That was the most empowering truth, empowering idea,
Mm.
was that just because I have a thought doesn't mean I have to believe it. So, you know, one example of how it's freed me is that years ago, my husband and I were not in a good place. And I remember we would like fight, or we'd say not nice stuff to each other, and I would have the thought in my head, I want a divorce. And then I would be like in that, and it was so true. And I wanted a divorce, and I was too scared to tell him yet, but it just like I could live on that, in that energy for a long time, weeks, months, right? And we did not get divorced. We reconnected. We have an amazing, blow my mind every day kind of marriage now.
Due to
Um,
your mindset, due to how you
yeah,
shifted
right.
yourself. It's not that he came home with chocolates and, a free trip
No,
to Europe.
that'll be a
That
story for
was,
another day. Yeah.
yeah, but
How Heather
it was how
transformed.
you shifted inside yourself. And we'll talk
Yes.
more about this, of course. It's not a
Yes, we'll tell the story.
mindset
But
story.
um the other day, or the other week, I was laying in my bed right over here, and he said something and I was in a grumpy mood, and up came the thought, I want a divorce, right?
Wow.
But this time I'm used to watching my thoughts. So I'm really fluent in just like being the witness of the thoughts. And so the thought came up and I just laughed. I was like, that's so silly, right? It doesn't mean having this awareness doesn't mean like I'm
You're
only going to
cured.
have perfect thoughts. It has nothing. It's more of a state of allowing whatever thought comes up to come up, right? But to instead of being with it as in it's the truth,
Yes.
right? It's
Yeah.
like a possibility.
Yeah.
What if my thoughts are um like my brain is trying out some things. It's like, try this, try these words, try these words, try these words. And I get to grab onto the one that's most useful and use it,
Yeah.
you know?
And it's really, the thoughts are shifting them from fear to love. And the first thing is just being aware. And you said something to me when we were in Hawaii, which was something like, what's it like? I know I'm not quoting you, but it was something like,
Yeah.
what's a 5% more beautiful way thought? Like, what's a 5% more generous way of thinking about this person and speaking about this scenario? And I just love that. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like my son Bailey, every day there's a conversation about leaving the food on the table and bringing in ants, and every day it's like that never happened.
Yeah.
And that's like, something just for me. And I'm like, okay, what's a 5% more generous, more beautiful way of thinking about this?
Yeah.
He's tired, he's stressed,
Yeah.
he barely got himself upstairs at Lord knows what time.
Right.
Doesn't
Right.
mean I love it, doesn't mean I like it, but
Yeah.
what's a way to not be stuck there where I'm pissed and frustrated?
Right.
And
Well,
that's a gift to myself, and eventually
yes.
it's a gift to him, but first to myself.
Yeah. And I want you to tell your story, but to piggyback on that, when you or me or anyone shifts our thought about a situation, we get out of our fight or flight or all those things, all the F's, right? To a grounded, okay place where everything's okay. That's actually the point where we can make a change,
Yeah.
where we can choose something different. So this isn't about not making changes in your life, right? Not making changes in your relationships, not, making adjustments in behaviors and actions and material results. This is about what we're talking about. The turning inward is about having a relationship with yourself,
Yeah.
right? So that you can get to a place where you actually can take different actions, right?
Yeah. So tell me more about when you started to shift. How did you shift your relationship with your husband? I know we're going to be jumping around and we've got
Sure.
infinite amount of episodes in time that hopefully
Yes,
this benefits others, but I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, okay, she went from divorce to just having the best date ever last night
I
that we
did.
were
Yeah.
talking about before we turned on the video. So talk about your internal experience of how you began
Mhm.
to change that, because it's powerful.
Yes. So, um, my, I think lowest point, I remember I was pregnant with my third kid, big belly, about to pop in the shower. And we had just had some interaction and I was in the shower crying. And I remember this thought, like, so I'm committed to being home with my children until they start school, right? And I thought, how am I going to make this like 6 years, 5 years, 6 years? Like, how am I going to survive? I just thought I can't do it anymore. And that was the most beautiful day because when you get to the point where you're like, I can't do this anymore, then you don't do it anymore. And what happened was I started to take responsibility, like looking at myself, and the biggest shift was, oh, I haven't created the relationship that I want to have.
Mm.
Right? All of this time, it was like, he's done this, he's wrong, he's bad, he's doing it wrong. And at that moment, when I took, I can't do this anymore, right? And who I was being in the relationship, I was showing up and like coping, right? He would be some certain way. I would be a certain way, which would cause him to be in a certain way. And then I would react in a way that just I would try to take the best care of myself, in that situation, which is a beautiful thing to do. But at some point, like tolerating is not a way to live,
Mm. Beautiful.
it's just not, right? And so, I had the baby, I don't know, a couple years go by, and then, it was working with John Patrick Morgan. He has a sentence, that a question you can ask yourself, how am I creating this? Right. And so, I had already kind of stepped into taking responsibility. That was the first big step. I know these are years apart, but it's core to take just responsibility that if I'm ever going to have the relationship that I want, I'm going to be the one that creates it. It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to fall out of the sky. Right. It's me. I get to do that. Right. It's a way that life calls us into our greatness, so this whole process has been me stepping in to my greatness as a human being, creating a relationship with another wildly imperfect human being like myself. So after taking responsibility and then really it was brave, man, to ask,
Yeah.
how did I create this as it is? Right? That was one of the bravest things I ever did. But as soon as I started to see the power in the answers that I would get when I would ask myself that, I couldn't stop. I was like, well, now I want to know, all of this. How is it my creation? And once you start to see that you've created that, then I started to see that I could create something else if
Mm.
I was a different way. And the ways that I let go of were, the first thing I did, I remember I was on vacation and I gave up criticism.
Whoa.
And
Just like,
yeah,
let's just pause there for a minute.
yeah,
Really.
uh-huh,
Because because, I mean, imagine a world where we gave up criticism.
yeah.
And just to clarify, were you giving up criticism for everybody, giving up criticism for your husband, giving up criticism for yourself? Was it everywhere? I'm just
So
dig
it
in.
was specifically for my husband, but
Okay.
it's very difficult to do it in one area and not all areas. So it really has been all areas.
All right.
Um,
Awesome.
so I didn't realize I was being critical until coach pointed it out, or I saw somebody else have it pointed out, right? Like, oh, I'm like, that's a criticism. Oh, it like opened my eyes to my being, how I was being,
Mm.
right? And um, I didn't know what I was going to do next. I couldn't wrap my mind around what to do instead, but I knew that I wasn't going to, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And then I was like, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so we were on vacation and I gave up criticism, and oh my gosh, like literally overnight, the vibe changed with my husband and with my kids and with my in-laws. I was with my in-laws. Like overnight, I changed. My experience changed,
Exactly. It's so powerful.
right?
Like
And
nobody else, everybody was just doing the same thing they did
everybody was
the
doing the
year
same
before, the
stuff.
day before, and you
Yes.
shifted
Yep.
how you were
Yep.
showing up. And then magically,
Yep. And I remember like, um, we were on a boat. We were staying at a lake and we were on this boat, and I had the thought, and like the men are driving the boat, and I had this memory of my dad teaching my brother to sail. We had a sailboat growing up, and like it wasn't like I wasn't allowed to sail, but it was kind of like my brother was his first mate, and I
Right.
was like the helper, and I always wanted to be, the main person helping, or like the one that like could sail the boat by herself. And I have driven boats, I have a boating license, all this stuff. But in that moment, I saw that I wanted to drive the boat, and I saw my brain start to go to criticism of how the dynamics in the family were, right? And I was like, whoa, what if I just cut that off right there and said, what would I love to create? I want to drive the boat. And so I got up and said, can I drive the boat? And then I drove the boat a lot all week. And there were pictures of me driving the boat, right? And so like it was not revolutionary to drive a boat. Do you know what I mean? I drove, but it was revolutionary how I was being in the moment, which created my experience of being with that family for that week.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just completely own that my original experience was all created by me. And then this next experience. And so I've just been applying this to all the areas of my life as much as I can muster,
Wow.
since then.
Wow. It's just so powerful what you said. And one thing that I want to really distinguish for everybody that's listening is that when we say taking responsibility, I think it doesn't mean we then beat the shit out of ourselves for how we were. It's really so a big part of our work, and really with my work, is a deep, deep training in releasing judgments, self-forgiveness, compassion. I know a lot of people have, I think there's a lot of misperception around what is forgiveness. I'm letting you off the hook. I'm letting me off the hook. And it's really
Yeah.
not, it's about freedom.
Yes.
And really, can we be with ourselves and others more neutrally?
Yeah.
So there's freedom that you release that energy
Yeah.
of criticism, of blame, of judgment, of victimhood.
Yeah.
So there's just more spaciousness
Yeah.
to create another way, another possibility. And so I think that's really beautiful. It's like the releasing criticism also was with you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's where
I could have
most
not,
need to start.
yeah, I could not have come. I do Facebook Lives, I create webinars, I do all these things, and that would not have ever happened if I was being with myself in the
Yeah.
way that I had been in the past. Like
Yeah.
there is, my saying is there's nothing that I usually say it to someone else. There's nothing you could say or do ever to make me love you any more or any less, period. Right. My love is an expression of me. And so that I have that for me too.
Oh,
There is,
that's it.
that's it. There's nothing that I could say or do to make me love me any more or any less. Do I forget sometimes? Yep. But then I come back around because it feels so much freaking better. So,
Amazing. Like, what if we started with ourselves?
yeah.
I mean, everybody loves somebody huge.
Yeah.
They're a stand for their possibility, their greatness. And there's, one of the things I say to myself is I'm a stand for the maximum positive impact of every soul, starting with me. Like,
Yeah.
always forget ourselves. And really, if we shifted how we're being with ourselves,
Yeah.
your entire world would change, really.
Absolutely.
And so thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's just really inspiring and really powerful.
Yeah.
And available for every single person, that when we shift how we're being with ourselves, and I think really the key to it is releasing judgment, releasing criticism, whatever words you want to
Yes.
use,
Yes.
nobody else in your world has to shift. And
Well,
that's pretty magical.
nobody has to, but it turns out everybody
They do.
does, right? Because when I'm not coming from a place of criticism, I'm coming from, so I call it separating love and logistics.
I love
So,
that.
yeah. So for me, the love is turned up all the time in all ways, right? So my family members never have to question if I love them. That love is at the max, right? Am I always like expressing it perfectly or beautifully? No, but that is a consistent, right, belief that they can have when they're around me. If I have the behaviors or the logistics or like the relational actual actions tied up in the love, right? Then when my husband snaps at me or when I snap at him, right? We start to wonder, does he love me? Wait, that wasn't
Mhm.
loving, right? But if we can just be that we love each other, period, full stop, even if we got divorced, even if we decided to do something different, right? It creates when the love is consistent, then it creates this beautiful foundation to sort out all the logistics on top of,
Yeah.
right? All the who's doing what when, who's doing the dishes, even the tone of voice we use, we just see it as logistics. It's like just the action that came out, right? I'll say, oops, let's shift that up, right? And so that I think is the ongoing work, is being a loving presence inside myself, right? And then when I have that, then all of a sudden I'm free and able and even creative about how to create the material results
Yeah.
that I would love to experience in my
Yeah.
relationship.
And I really just want to emphasize that the love is generated within yourself. So a lot of people are like, well, if he just loved me better or differently, or
Yeah.
if my mom just spoke to me in a more loving way and wasn't such a bitch and critical or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like the love is a place that you come from
Yes.
inside yourself.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
the inner landscape, right? So it's
Yes.
like throw at me the logistics, throw at me your bitchy, critical, whatever. And who I am
Yeah.
is a stand for the love within me. I'm a loving person and bring it.
Yes.
And if you, and again, I just also want to emphasize that like the family is like the Everest landscape, right?
Yes.
Like we work with Steve Hardison, the ultimate coach, and I was in his office at a session, and I was like, I don't even know if I can do this coaching thing. I can't even get my son to do X, Y, and Z. He's like, if I based what I did based on how my family responded, I'd be out of business too. Like
Yes.
like
Yes.
the family, the people that you can't move out are the ultimate testing ground. So,
Yeah.
give yourself some grace because it's just a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just coming from a place of love and also returning and returning
Yes.
and
Yes.
returning and
Yes.
recommitting because
Yes.
we're having a big family dinner today. And I'm giving myself a pep talk.
Huh?
It's real, right? We're just human beings, right?
Yes.
And so it's just, okay, who do I want to show up as today? And then who am I going to be when I fall out of that and start going, oh, there he goes again, and then
Yeah.
returning and be gentle with
Well,
myself about it. Like have a laugh. Like, okay,
yes.
it's okay.
Yes. I love the reference to giving yourself a pep talk, because love can be my love is generated, right? Through my relationship with myself.
Yeah.
And my relationship with myself is all the thoughts that I'm having
Mm,
about myself, right? What else is a relationship? Like people say, like my marriage, my relationship, like it's a thing that is outside that we can hold.
yeah.
But a relationship is actually two relationships. I have a relationship in my head with my husband, right? All the thoughts, we have interactions, but 90% of my relationship with my husband is in my head, is how I'm thinking about him, how I'm regarding him. And then he has a relationship with me that's completely separate from
Yeah.
my relationship with him. It lives inside his head, right? So, but my relationship with my husband is an exact perfect projection of my relationship with me. And so if I am looking to generate love in my relationship with my husband, right, it's got to start with me generating love in my relationship with me. And I can generate hate in my relationship with me. I can generate doubt. I can generate fear. I can generate all these things. And, I'm not saying that we need to look at all our thoughts and like get rid of all the ones that don't work. No, no, no. They can be here and we cannot hook into them. We cannot believe them. And then we can generate a new thought,
Yeah.
right? And we can hook into and believe that one. And I love to create loving thoughts that give me loving feelings, right? A client recently said of our work together, he says, man, and I don't know if I said this to him a while ago, but this is his best description of what he's learned is like to be the sun.
Yeah.
And before he was like looking for light from all the people around him, constantly needing it, right? And feeling depleted if he didn't have it, or if, and then constantly judging their actions. Was that loving or not loving? Does that mean they love me or not? Am I getting enough
Right.
love? And like, right? Looking for energy and love from people around him. And now he's like, I'm the sun.
Yeah.
Like I generate it, right? And it shines out of me. And the sun doesn't worry about whether each blade of grass is worthy of its warmth, right? There's just stuff around and I shine and it touches whatever it touches, right? Whatever I come upon, it touches and stuff grows.
Yeah.
And that is, a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way of being alive that I wish for everyone. To me, that's the feeling of being fully alive, right? When you can generate inside yourself. I don't mean every minute. I don't mean you're never
Yes.
sad. I don't mean you're never angry. I don't mean any of that, right? But I love the feeling and the opportunity that I have to love myself when I take full responsibility for being the source of love in my life, right? And then I'm putting it on my kids and I'm putting it on my husband, right? I'm expressing myself in that way. They can count on me for that. And then guess what comes back, right? We can't not mirror each other. That's not how the science of human interaction works, right? It's creating a vibe in my house. And so I just let myself be as bright a sun
Yeah.
as, right, wants to show up. And then I'm seeing over time how I'm creating little suns around me,
That's so
right?
beautiful.
Yeah.
And what I love also, because I went through this whole thing of like, oh, my energy will be depleted. These people are energy vampires and they're going to take my light and all these things. And I really just got that, like, the sun doesn't need to be replenished. And I also love the stars. Sun and the stars don't need to
It's the
be
same thing. It's a
replenished.
little star. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
amazing. But it's not something that people can take from you. It's
Nope.
something that is a constantly renewal. It doesn't mean you don't need a rest, doesn't mean you need a timeout. I mean, I highly recommend stillness
Mhm.
to regroup, because it's real. We're not talking about being a Buddha and a monk on a mountaintop. We're like, this is life. It's a full contact sport.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're more powerful than you know,
Yeah.
that we generate the love, and we don't have to spend years on the therapist couch to
Mhm.
understand why this thought and why this happened, and how do I release blame from this person who
Yeah.
did that to me. It's like, yes, all of that is true and real,
Mhm. Fun
and
and useful. Yeah.
how do we start where we are to
Mhm.
be the most loving, empowered, prosperous, peaceful person that
Yes.
we can be? And what that means is, how do I choose a more beautiful 5% thought?
Yes. If we are alive, we are always generating something, right? If I'm thinking, I'm generating that being, that vibe, that way. And so I guess that's what, we'll bring it all the way back full circle. What turning inward is looking at what am I generating,
Yeah, what am I
right?
creating? What
What are
thought
my,
am I working with here?
yes, what thoughts am I creating? What feelings am I creating? What relationship with my thoughts am I creating? And what feelings are being generated and what actions are being generated from that? And so that's the invitation today,
Yeah,
right? To anyone listening to, the main way people start to notice their thoughts is meditation. I'm not someone who sits on a cushion for hours a day, but I do vacuum and I do laundry and I do dishes and I take walks and I am watching my thoughts the whole time. So, um, that would be a beautiful first step for anyone listening, right? Who is new to this work. Um, Notice what vibe is being created in your head and know that it's not the only one
yeah,
that you could create. There
yeah.
are other possibilities.
Beautiful. And my tips and how I do it is, I call it freedom writing. So
Mm,
I just write out whatever goes through my head. You don't have to spell it right. It doesn't have to be a full sentence. And then when you're done, I rip it up, and
yeah.
you can burn it or throw it outside your house and then wash your hands. So it's not something
Ooh,
that anyone's ever going to find. And it's just sort of a way to release the thinking and the energy.
Yeah.
And movement. Movement is
Yes.
great exercise.
Yes.
And just the thought of what thought could I choose that would be 5% more loving, beautiful, or helpful to me.
Yes.
I
Loving,
think
beautiful, helpful.
that's thousands of dollars of coaching that and that Heather and I have
Yeah.
invested
Yeah.
free to you to hopefully really implement in your lives. And just Heather, thank you for sharing with me and with everybody part of your inner excursions. And I can't wait to continue on into the next episode with you.
Yes. I'll see you then,
Okay.
Stacy.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.